Round 2 of the International GTOpen comes to you from Paul Ricard. The 5.822 kilometer circuit, 15 turns, 9 to the right, 6 to the left. We've got 70 minutes of racing for you today with a 14-minute pit window in the middle. A strong grid of 20 cars set to take the start for this race. As you can see, they're already primed and ready to go down there on the starting grid. It will be the number 18 FIBA Motorsport car of Adam Christodoulou starting this race from pole position, part of an all-Mercedes front row, along with Moritz Kranz from Get Speed. Great variety of cars, shapes and sizes here today. We've had Aston Martin join us for the first time this season, courtesy of the Street Art Racing 007 car, which will be solo driven in this race by Pascal Bachmann. Great to have a new team with us this weekend, and great to have so many returnees as well. Also returning this weekend is my co-commentator George Morgan. And George, it's been a really interesting season for GTOpen so far. We had thrills and spills at Estoril, and now we arrive at Paul Ricard's, and last year it was a dramatic race here. I expect we might get some more in 2022.
We certainly could. I mean, what a race it was last year as well, of course, and well, a good couple of races that we had here. Obviously, Estoril, it started with a bang, didn't it? Race 1, we had that red flag from the very beginning, which was obviously a crying shame, but I have to say, great when we got the action back underway. And the cars are raring and ready to go, but no less happy is going to be this man. It's Adam Christodoulou. He is chuffed as beans, certainly starting from the front row of the grid. Absolutely sensational. He had a great start at Estoril, him and his teammate Rima Jafari, the newly crowned FIBA Motorsport, obviously, the new team that have ventured into GTOpen this season. Looking forward to seeing how they get on. Of course, they would claim the Pro-Am win on both occasions at Estoril. What a wonderful result indeed. Both drivers were very, very happy. But of course, Rima Jafari and of course Adam Christodoulou, they have their heights set somewhere further. They want to get an overall win, Adam.
Yes, they do. And I mean, based on the form that we saw out of them at Estoril, particularly in that second race, you could expect it, and you wouldn't be all that surprised if it did happen. Christodoulou had a massive first stint in the second race at Estoril, and Rima Jafari took over the car and did a brilliant job too. They had 2 Pro-Am wins in the Estoril event and an overall podium in race number 2. And so if Christodoulou and Rima Jafari feel a win is available to them, then I don't blame them for trying to go for it. The 18 car will be right up there at the sharp end, and Adam Christodoulou will take the start. It's interesting, actually. Adam Christodoulou and Moritz Kranz, they're on that front row of the grid in the 18 and the 9 car. 2 drivers who have had massive success at the Nürburgring. Christodoulou is a 24-hour of Nürburgring winner, and Moritz Kranz has really cut his teeth at the Nürburgring. That's where he's done most of his driving and most of his career. There you see Rima Jafari talking to Adam Christodoulou. Moritz Kranz receiving some well wishes from teammate, co-driver Janine Schaffner, who will be driving the car a little later on. Moritz Kranz, there he is, big wave, and he's ready to go racing. Sebastian Bold is next on the grid, 3rd fastest, and all Mercedes top 3, and the second Get Speed car, the Pro-Am entry, which has been reclassified from Pro since last time out, is there in 3rd place. Glenn Van Berlo, 4th fastest in the Oregon team, number 19 Lamborghini. He will be sharing with Kevin Giardoni when we go racing later on. 5th place, Nick Moss in the 72 car. And Joe Osborne giving a frank description of what he needs to do in the early stages of the race there. Benji Hites there in 6th place for Oregon team in the 63 car, and he is followed by Erwin Zanotti, the first of the Am entries, I should say. Stephen Earle will be in the car later, the good doctor hailing from Texas. Erwin Zanotti in 7th place there, taking the start for the 11 crew though. Giuseppe Cipriani for Il Barone Rampante. He was clearly cold when he took his photo for the graphics. 8th fastest, Cipriani. And that car has been hired out. It's not the car we saw last time, of course. That was a massive crash that car had last time out. Alexander Krakowina there in 9th place. Pascal Bachmann in 10th position. So 4th place among the AMs. And in the overall top 10, he, along with Giuseppe Cipriani, are doing this race solo. And that's going to be a big test for them. Marcin Jedlinski there in 11th position. Dexter Muller is next alongside him, but I believe our cameraman has been told to exit stage right, and in fact there you can see him running off, so we'll just get to the top 11. Dexter Muller is 12th fastest though, the number 54 SPS Mercedes starting from the 6th row of the grid. Here's some of what we saw last time then at the Estoril circuit. This was the start of race number 1. Pulcini and Joe Osborne both getting great starts to the race. Unfortunately, though, just a few corners in, a big smash for the two drivers, Bold and I believe that was Francinetti in the car at the time, and then 2 other drivers followed suit as well. 4 cars, not all written off, but all heavily damaged within the first few corners. Then a big moment between Pulcini and Joe and Nick Moss. Nick Moss ending up off the track, unfortunately, and having to settle for second in the first race of the weekend. Ben Jahites taking the plaudits along with Pulcini in race number 1. Race 2, and it was Carol Bash towards the sharp end of the order in the early stages. Pro-Ams at the sharp end, and a big moment between Van Berlo and Alan Valente at turn 2. Caused a bit of a collision. Pulcini, meanwhile, making up places. He managed to get around the Jedlinski-driven 777 car of the Carol Bash. Had such a strong stint, and he continued to pick through the order. He just got past Rima Jafari. Jafari went off the circuit trying to avoid a back marker, and Roman Zemian couldn't hold off Pulcini, who managed to get his way up to the very sharp end of the order and claim a win at Estoril. So 2 from 2 for the 63 duo of Hites and Pulcini. Coming into this weekend, certainly Oregon team have stamped their authority on this season so far. Here you see the points, 30 points for Hites and Pulcini, 24 points for Osborne and Moss, 18 for the car that we see on pole today, Christodoulou and Jafari, 3rd in the overall championship. And so the car's already on their formation lap, and Christodoulou it is there on pole position. As you see, pole by a second earlier. Moritz Kranz alongside him. Seb Bold is in 3rd place, and then Glenn Van Berlo sits in 4th. That's the first of the pro cars, of course. Next up is an all-pro 3rd row with Nick Moss in 5th and Ben Jahites in 6th. Erwin Zanotti sits 7th and Giuseppe Cipriani there in 8th. 9th place, Alexander Krakowina and Pascal Bachmann, an all-AM row there. 11th and 12th place, Marcin Jedlinski and Dexter Muller in 12th. 13th and 14th, Dino Steiner and Bernard Laber in the Audi and the Mercedes respectively. Good to have Aust Motorsport there with that number 3 Audi. Murat Shahadaroglu in 15th alongside Omar Jackson, and Kiki Saknana 17th, Laurent Demius alongside him. And the final row of the grid, the number 5 Olymp Racing Ferrari. Yes, one team running 2 different manufacturers. And interestingly, Axel Jeffries right down there at the bottom of the grid. So it seems like Jeffries' times were deleted coming out of qualifying. So Axel Jeffries starting from the very back. Of course, a puncture. We thought it was electrical issues in qualifying, but a puncture hampered the progress in quali. And now, starting from the very back, so bad to worse for Axel Jeffries, but he will be fighting hard to make his way through the order. An all-Mercedes front row. It's going to be a drag race between 2 identical cars. Christodoulou and Moritz Kranz are front row. Watch out for Sebastian Bold and Glenn Van Berlo as well on the 2nd row of the grid. The red lights will go out and we will be racing. We are underway. It is Christodoulou with a great start. He's got the car pretty much ahead of Moritz Kranz already. And look at Nick Moss up the inside there with a plum. And can he get himself up into maybe even third place? No. Ends up down in fifth behind the two Lamborghinis, the side-by-side from Oregon team. That will be a tense garage, but everyone through the first couple of corners in one piece. And here we see the view from Van Berlo, who is there in third place, and Seb Bold fires back and gets himself back up to fifth. Well, he didn't want to wait around behind the McLaren too long, did he? He's up into fifth position, and Cipriani there, already up to seventh. Giuseppe Cipriani, the number 8 car from the Il Baroni Rampante team, is up into seventh. He's got ahead of Erwin Zanotti for the AM lead in the early going. Nick Moss there had an absolutely electric start, George.
He certainly did. He got away very well indeed. Just wasn't quite able to capitalise at that point heading in towards turn one. Was a little bit tight leading into it. We got a little bit of activity at the back there by looks of it. But Bernhard Laber, I think, is under a little bit of pressure with Axel Jeffries, who has actually made some really nice places up from the back up into 17th. Still leading the way though, Christodoulou doing exactly what he was doing in qualifying, leading the way with Moritz Kranz there in second place. Glenn Van Berlo still leading, marshalling his teammate Benji Hites, who's currently in fourth. Sebastian Bold now in fifth, of course, with Nick Moss in behind as well. Kevin Ghilardoni there as well. Just round the next right-hander. We're now watching all these cars nose to tail right now, and still Christodoulou in front with Moritz Kranz in second. Nick Moss in sixth, still right on the tail of Sebastian Bold, trying to stay in touch. Like you say, he had a brilliant start and certainly is definitely in the fight.
Very much so, yes. We saw Glenn Van Berlo there coming around the senior bend there with a huge snap of oversteer. Maybe the dirty air from the Mercedes ahead of him having an effect there. But it's Van Berlo in the car, and he will be looking to try and get that Lamborghini past Moritz Kranz as quickly as possible. Kranz then in second place, and watching Christodoulou drive away. Christodoulou with a nice advantage over the Get Speed Mercedes. The FIBA Motorsport team running this Mercedes by themselves for the first time. FIBA Motorsport were represented last time out at Estoril, but they had technical backing from SPS. The team has been brought together in just a couple of months, and well, it's a testament to just how good of a job FIBA Motorsport are doing and just how strong of a team it is that they are already right up there at the sharp end in this first race as an official team together. And FIBA, the brainchild and the project of Rima Jafari and numerous others, everyone has worked really hard to get to this point, and it's great to see it paying off for them here. You see there the two Lamborghinis from Oregon team, Van Berlo and Hites, they're running just behind Moritz Kranz. Kranz will later hand the car over to Janine Schaffner. Of course, Anna Christodoulou will hand the car over to Rima Jafari. Then Van Berlo will later hand over to Kevin Ghilardoni, and Benji Hites will hand the car over to Leonardo Polcini. Here's Nick Moss there in sixth place now after that really impressive start to the race. Of course, Sebastian Bold, that was an incredible launch up the inside of turn 3. Viraj Hotel really did stamp his authority, making sure he got back to the fifth position. Moss, though, comfortably there in sixth place. He hasn't got any pressure from Cipriani behind, who is the leading AM class runner. And Zanotti, Rina and Murat Chahadaroglu rounding out the overall top 10. Now, Murat Chahadaroglu started outside of the top 15, and he's up to 10th place. So there have really been some high movers in the early stages of this race.
Certainly have been. Lots of them taking advantage off the start, but certainly Christodoulou holding on to that lead. No changes at the top in terms of the top two drivers, but Van Berlo and Hites are going to look to try and maybe gamble, maybe get closer. Certainly Van Berlo will. Naturally, I had a chat with him. Certainly after the first event we had at Estoril, he was keen to certainly improve. While he said that it was great for Team Oregon that Benji Hites would, of course, with his teammate Leonardo Polcini, take the plaudits in the first event that we did. Here comes the street art car, as we say, and as we can see them making moves, it is Axel Jeffries once again, and he's up into what looks to be 12th place. Not a bad start at all for that Ferrari.
No, absolutely not. So he's already knocking on the door of the top 10 there in 12th place. He's got past Pascal Bachmann, who is, as we said, racing solo here this weekend. The debuting Street Art Racing Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. And some battling going on in the Pro-Am order as well. This is 4th place in Pro-Am, 10th overall. And it's being contested between Murat Jedelinski and Marcin Jedelinski. Jedelinski seemed to have a bit of a mixed weekend at Estoril. By his own estimation, he didn't seem too happy with performances at Estoril, but he's really coming into his own here at Paul Ricard, up to 10th place, ahead of Jedelinski, although both of them are about to come under fire from Axel Jeffries, who is, of course, the pro of his Pro-Am car.
And he's rapid as well. You look at him right on the tail, as we can now watch the cameras now, panning as we see the move, maybe looking to be made. Axel Jeffries down in towards turn 10. Is he going to make it stick? Just a little look. A very hair's breadth graze there between the pair. And as you can see, Marcin Jedelinski still holding on to his position in 11th spot. But here we go. Down the inside at turn 11. It is going to be Axel Jeffries. Smooth as you like butter. He did it. And he's now moved up higher again. I tell you what, he's poleaxing his way through this field right now from the very back of the grid, from where he started, now up into 11th spot, Adam.
There you go, so Jedelinski now coming under pressure, and I didn't think it would be long. Jeffries gets himself up into the top 10 with what I think Jedelinski really wanted him past so he could focus on hauling off Marcin Jedelinski. So into the overall top 10 has gone Axel Jeffries, 4th in Pro-Am with that as well. He then has the AM battle for the leads ahead of him. Now these drivers won't make it so easy because they're all pretty quick in their own right. Giuseppe Cipriani has had some really good results over the years, both solo and paired with other drivers. Erwin Zanotti is a young driver looking to make a career of this whole motorsport lark, but he is rated a bronze at the moment, hence he is in the AM class. We see here some of the moves Jeffries was making to get himself up into the top 10. But yes, between Cipriani, Zanotti and Rakowina, I imagine it's going to get a lot more difficult for Jeffries because those three are fighting for the AM class honours at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to get a bit congested, as you say, also rightly say. Cipriani, Zanotti and Rakowina all together, as we're now watching the front end, certainly with Moritz Krans, Glenn Van Berlo, Benji Hites as well, all in tandem, heading through the chicane now on Mistral Straight. On the outset now, Benji Hites, we can see from our cameras, now making his way towards turn 10 again. This one you sort of lift off a little bit now. Christodoulou is going to be the first man to take it as part of Tiba Motorsport. In behind as well, Moritz Krans in the fellow Merc with Glenn Van Berlo in behind as well. Of course, Glenn Van Berlo looking very prominent indeed in 3rd place. Took it a little bit better, I think, than Benji Hites did on that occasion around turn 10, so did extremely well. Nick Moss still there or thereabouts, 6th place to approximately 2.9 seconds away from Sebastian Bold, who's currently sat in 5th. And further down, Giuseppe Cipriani leading the AM category contingent as well. So this is a welcome return, I think, so far from Giuseppe Cipriani, who unfortunately came a cropper in the incident at Estoril. And I think he was a bit downhearted on that, but great to see him back out.
Yeah, really good to see the return of Giuseppe Cipriani. Looking at the state of the car after Estoril, it was really a grave analysis from everyone in the team. It is not the same car. They are using a car they hired out from Imperiali Racing, and good results so far from it for Cipriani, who sits there in 7th place. Of course, this is the first time he's competed in a race this season because Francinetti was at the wheel when the crash happened at Estoril, and therefore Cipriani hasn't gotten to race so far this year. Axel Jeffries has got himself up into 8th place already, so he's now behind Cipriani. We suspect he'll soon get past Cipriani too, so Jeffries is still combing his way through the order, getting back towards the top 6, as it were. And we're getting a replay here at the start. Nick Moss really did hold no prisoners as he went to the inside in the early stages. Near contact as well between the two Oregon Team Lamborghinis, but no problems at all for Christodoulou at the head of the order. He was well clear of Moritz Krans to take the lead in the early going. And here we see the nose coming off almost for Nick Moss there. Neither of the Oregon team cars were willing to fall behind the Optimum McLaren in the early stages. And then Moss was trying to get around the Lamborghinis, and ended up with a Mercedes up the inside. Sebastian Bold eventually dived for 3rd No, I was right, 5th place going into turn 3. We just saw there as well Marcin Jedelinski making a position up on Murat Chadaroglu. Then it was side by side between Chadaroglu and Bachmann. Bachmann also fighting with Chadaroglu, a good scrap for what is now 11th place. Of course, they've all been dispatched in recent laps by Axel Jeffries, who now sits there in 7th overall. He, of course, is working hard here to try and give the car over to Roman Zemian in as good of a position as he possibly can. And if there's anyone qualified to hustle a GT car around Paul Ricard, it's certainly Axel Jeffries, who has such a stellar record behind him in largely in Lamborghinis, it must be said. But I understand at the moment he's driving a Lamborghini GT3 car in the Nürburgring series. He's driving a Mercedes elsewhere too, and he's driving a Ferrari here in GTOpen. He is all over the GT racing scene at the moment.
He knows every car inside and out then, obviously. Currently 13 places higher than where he started, so he is making some really impressive inroads, it has to be said, getting the jump at the very start as well. Another man who got the jump he would have wanted is Adam Christodoulou, holding on to the lead. 4.1 the advantage now with Van Berlo there in 3rd place. He says it still remains the same, no change in the top 4, but I can only imagine when the driver changes come out, that is, we might see some shuffling, but still as things stand, it's Glenn Van Berlo in this car. Gillardoni will be the man to transfer across later on in the race as they now make their way down the Mistral Straight. And you can get a nice view there of Moritz Kranz's Mercedes. They head into the chicane there now, hitting every apex, brushing every curve as they now power down towards the second half, or through the second half of the Mistral Straight. There's Adam Christodoulou, and as you can see there, the gap really, really healthy there between Moritz Kranz and Christodoulou. 4.2 seconds away is Moritz Kranz for the back lane. Within a second, 0.9 currently was sat at, and you can just see them there hustling over the curbs there, and you can see how uncomfortable it can be. A little twitch there as well from Glenn Van Berlo. Not something he'd personally want to see. Certainly heading around this next ride. We did see a couple of incidents earlier on with a bit of twitching in the GT Cup race that we saw earlier on with a little bit of movement happening with some of the cars in the tail. And obviously that could be down to setup, could be various different things, but obviously over these curves they've got to take great care.
Yeah, and you do often see the mid and rear engine cars kind of fighting back at times in the mid corner if you don't keep the throttle very carefully planted to try and balance the car. The car that you just saw, the pink Mercedes of Sebastian Bold, that car has been shown the black and white flags for track limits at turn 10 at Senior, where a lot of people are having issues with the track limits, and also turn 7, which is coming out onto the Mistral Straight. So yes, that is interesting to see that black and white flag has been put out so early. They want to avoid any further discrepancies so that there isn't a penalty applied later on. So there is the car we were just talking about. Seb Bode is on screen. You see Axel Jeffries continuing to set the pace in 7th position, closing in slowly on Nick Moss. I reckon he might get to the back of Nick Moss before the pit window opens. Moss will probably hand over to Joe Osborne quite quickly, whereas Axel Jeffries will most likely stay out until the very last gasp of the pit window. Here is Glenn Van Berlo, here at the chicane in 3rd position, bouncing over these curbs. There are some rather punishing curbs here at Paul Ricard, and it is quite the jolt for the driver and the car, but it's also just getting the traction right across some of these curbs sometimes. It doesn't take much to get it wrong.
No, not at all. One little slip and it can all be over, but naturally these are racing drivers. They know exactly what they're doing. They're on the ball, and certainly this man is on the ball. Moritz Kranz in 2nd place, and that gap is now, I would say, pulled out slightly. 1.4 seconds now, near enough 1.5, so he's really starting to push and keep Van Berlo in behind. Heatez now a second away from the fellow Team Oregon car by a second, as we now ride on board again with Glenn Van Berlo. And you can see that the distance is starting to get a little bit drawn out now between him and Moritz Kranz. Of course, Glenn Van Berlo representing the pro category for Team Oregon. Moritz Kranz, the pro driver in the Pro-Am exchange with with Janine Schaffner as well, who will be taking the car later on. Further back, you can see there in picture, Nick Moss. And, of course, Axel Jeffries looking to close on him as well. In fact, you could say Axel Jeffries is still making some serious moves. It's down to 5.7 seconds now. So near enough, around half a second of gain there for Axel Jeffries. He certainly is making a real sterling appearance here in this race, coming from the back of the grid right up to 7th place currently. I'm sure he'd like to add 6 to that repertoire as well.
Yes, I'm sure that he will be working hard to try and get further up the order. I think for him, it's not so much about positions in its own right. It's more about just making sure he hands over the car to Roman Zemian without too much issue. Of course, having qualified well, but then ending up losing his places, dropping down to 20th on the grid. He has had a lot of work to do, so he will want to get up the order, but I think he'll be thinking of Roman more than himself here at Paul Ricard. The 133 car of Murat Jedelinski there in 12th place. Dexter Muller has just got himself up into, in fact, sorry, Murat Jedelinski has lost a position. We're going to see why now. Pascal Bachmann has moved up to P12, and there you see it, through into 12th place goes the 007. Murat Jedelinski down to 13th. Dexter Muller was looking rather interesting, getting past that 133 Ferrari as well. So Jedelinski has had quite an exciting race to this point. Nick Moss in 6th position, then riding on board with him in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Optimum, another team that are very busy this year on a transatlantic basis, actually, as well. They are running in the IMSA categories too. Nick Moss in the McLaren, though, runs down towards turn 14. And the Optimum Motorsport car around the final corner now, and we'll start another lap. This is lap 9 of the race that he'll be starting this time. 53 minutes of the 70 left to go, and look at that gap. It goes down and down and down just in the last sector. Another half second taken out of Nick Moss by Axel Jeffries. So Axel is coming in hot. It was 5 seconds prior to or at the start of the last lap, I should say. And now it's down to, what, 3.6, and it's probably going down every single corner. Axel Jeffries pressing hard here as Nick Moss continues to put in an admirable shift, but there you see another 6/10 taken. Axel Jeffries is going to be on the back of the McLaren in no time, but I suspect Nick Moss isn't going to make it easy for him.
No, not at all. I think he's going to try and position the car in every way which but possible to keep Axel Jeffries from making any move, I think, at this point, obviously. But I think right now, the way Axel Jeffries has been going, he's got no problem with making overtakes. We've seen quite a few already. So heading through the second half of the stretch, Axel Jeffries really starting to send it. That gap is still coming down 3 seconds now at this stage, and it continues to drop. There we can see Nick Moss just past our screens. There's Axel Jeffries and Kessel Racing with the Ferrari. Number 73 now heading around towards turn 11, and looking very smart indeed right now, setting the trend, setting the pace here right now. And 3 seconds is where it's staying at least, but when we get through to the next sector, we will see that delta get updated. We'll get a new view as to where Axel sits ahead of Nick Moss, who is right ahead of him. And Sebastian Bold currently sat in 5th, of course. Nick Moss currently 2.4 in behind him as well. Giuseppe Cipriani still leading the AM contingent as well, but still a second is all that separates him and Erwin Zanotti right now. So he's looking pretty sharp, but he's going to be in the midst of a tight affair. There's Christian Duglu. Oh, God, a little rumble there. A bit of a twist of the steering wheel, Adam, to retain the grip.
Yes, the curbs reminding him that they're still there and they can bite, but well held and pressing on is Adam Christodoulou, just over 5 seconds clear at the front of the pack here. Moritz Kranz in 2nd place at the moment, and controlling the gap between himself and Van Berlo rather well, I must say. Glenn Van Berlo there in 3rd overall. And there is the Aus Motorsport Audi. Dino Steiner coming to a crawl here. He was in amongst a battle with the likes of Dexter Muller and Murat Shahadaroglu, but that Audi has come to a halt at a very, very difficult place. This could well trigger a full course yellow or something of that nature, certainly local yellow flags for now, but that car has come to a halt at a very strange place, and this is Axel Jeffries. What's happened to Axel Jeffries? Jeffries with an issue as well. I think this is down at the chicane at turn 9, and Axel Jeffries ended up looped around. We didn't see the cause of that. He was not sure how close he was to Nick Moss at the time, but he was pushing on and he's ended up in a spin. He's still there in 7th place, however. Well, all kicking off at once here at the GTOpen race, and Adam Christodoulou comes across the stricken number 3 Audi of Steiner. You can see the yellows are out, and the driver's having to be very careful to avoid that. Safety car has been deployed, thankfully. And Adam Christodoulou will be picked up by the safety car. So, with 7.5 minutes until the pit window opens, this is a huge shame for all of the Pro-Am teams, because, well, some of the Pro-Am teams anyway, the Pro-Am teams that have their Pro in right now, all of the gap that the like of Moritz Kranz and Adam Christodoulou and Sebastian Bold and Axel Jeffries have built for their co-driver, gone in one fell swoop. This will, though, bring the likes of the Oregon Lamborghinis right back up to Adam Christodoulou. It will bring Axel Jeffries back towards Nick Moss as well, which in the short term, I guess, would be something of a positive for him after that spin. We still haven't seen exactly how that happened. And are we now getting a look at something else? Yes, Cipriani with a spin. And oh, that's a huge shame for Giuseppe. He was running at the sharp end of the AM class. He's now down to 11th overall and 3rd within AM, so he has fallen down the pack a little bit, but he's still in a fairly competitive position within the AM class. But that will be a shame for him, of course. I think we could see an interesting battle in AM towards the latter half of this race, because the driver that's now 2nd in AM, Alexander Krakowina, he will be handing over to Martin Conrad, who only went and won the Bathurst 12 Hours last weekend. So he will be running on a high. And Stephen Earle, of course, the leader of AM, he'll be taking over that car from Erwin Zanotti, who's currently at the wheel. So as the cast of drivers changes, the understudies get their shot, as it were. It will be very interesting to see how this race evolves. 5 minutes and 38 seconds until the pit window opens, incidentally, so not long at all before the pits lane becomes rather busy. And I can guarantee you that likes of Christodoulou and Axel Jeffries will be pushing on hard to set qualifying laps as soon as that safety car comes in. Now, we haven't had a look at the situation at turn 13 for a little while, but it was one car that seemingly didn't have any damage on it, so hopefully it shouldn't be the longest of safety cars, but it depends really on what's happening with the number 3. Sure enough, they've got the trusty quad bike out. I've seen this Paul Ricard quad bike before. I'm not sure how it's quite so strong, but it does do a good job as a towing tractor, diminutive though it may be. That removing Dino Steiner's car, and that's hugely unfortunate for him, especially because Max Hofer was about to take the wheel, and Max is a really, really special GT racing driver, and I was massively looking forward to seeing how he did in this second half of the race. Unfortunately, the car came to a halt, and as you saw, it was towed away, implying no damage. So quite what happened to the car, I'm not so sure, but I'm sure that will be investigated by Aust Motorsport. At least one more lap under safety car then, and one more lap that the likes of Christodoulou and Jeffries aren't going to get to try and rebuild the gap. Could be a problem for them.
It could be. I think the strategies have pretty much been ripped up at this point. I mean, at the end of the day, I think if you're a Pro-Am right now and you've got your Pro in the car, you're going to want to pit as late as possible, I think. They're probably going to keep on driving. I can see Christodoulou staying out, I think, for a little bit longer. Obviously, I think Moritz Kranz will do the same as well. But the likes of Glenn Van Berlo and Hites, I mean, to be honest with you, it's interesting. Puts a very different complexion on what we thought was a lineup in this race so far, but we have got confirmation. Folks, safety car is in this lap. So Adam, obviously we've had an interesting start. At the same time now, we've had a safety car come out. So very different complexion now upon this race. Where do we see proceedings?
It's a very good question, and I must say the answer eludes me at this time. I think certainly, as we said, Christodoulou and Kranz will both be looking to rabbit off into the distance and try and build their advantages again for Rima Jafari and Janine Schaffner, respectively. And I tell you what, wouldn't that be fabulous after the pit stops if we have Janine Schaffner and Rima Jafari fighting for the overall lead in International GTOpen race. Great to see so many female competitors in the championship this year. And Rima in particular, so ambitious, kind of setting this team up along with her crew. Theba Motorsport, very much her baby, and no lacking of ambition as well when it comes to Janine Schaffner. Among other things, she used to be a skydiving photographer. Yes, that is something you can make a living on. No, I don't think many people do, but Janine, really a really special person, a great personality in the paddock, and her husband John is here this weekend. Those two have done a lot of racing together at the Nürburgring in recent years, and John, deciding the Nürburgring wasn't quite scratching that adrenaline itch anymore, has decided he's going to go and be a space pilot. Yes, he'll be piloting a spaceship in the not too distant future. That's part of the Axiom Space project that you see prominently posted on the car. Really exciting stuff there for the Schaffner family. What a great bunch of characters they are. Adam Christodoulou then will be leading the pack in just a few moments to get back underway here. Christodoulou, then let's see when he pulls the trigger and we go back to racing.
Certainly will. The safety car will be coming in any moment now, of course. So you can see the pit lane to the right-hand side of this pit road, and it's already come in, and Christodoulou will be the man to get them going again as they round the final corner tentatively, and they put pedal to the metal for the second time in this race now, and it's Christodoulou who leads the charge with Moritz Kranz in behind now. Big opportunity for Glenn Van Berlo, who goes hunting, moves either side now as the Team Oregon car takes the outside line. Opportunity in towards turn one. Moritz Kranz still holding on. Is it enough though? Not enough, because Van Berlo is into second place. In behind as well, Benjamin Hites looking to try and get a piece of the pie as well as they head in towards the next right. And certainly, oh, so tight, so close. A late break there from what looked to be Moritz Kranz, and has given the opportunity certainly to Benji Hites to go full send now in towards the chicane, and he's done it. They've done it. The Team Oregon cars a place apiece. And what a way to start after a safety car, but no question as to who's in front. Christodoulou has marched clear by 1.1 seconds.
What a first sector that was. Oregon team 2 against 1 against the Get Speed Mercedes of Moritz Kranz. And rather unsurprisingly, Moritz Kranz losing out in a 2-on-1 scenario, but he did very well, I must say, to avoid the back of Glenn Van Berlo going into Virage Hotel. He was a bit late on the brakes, he recognised that and did absolutely everything in his power to miss the rear of the Lamborghini. That did, of course, allow Benji Hites through into third place, but Kranz there very thoughtful driving there. Sebastian Bold then in fifth place. Of course, another Get Speed Mercedes. So we do have 2 Oregon team Lamborghinis from 2 Get Speed Mercedes in second, third, fourth and fifth. But it is the Theba Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo that leads the way with Adam Christodoulou at the wheel. The pit lane is open for pit stops. Driver change on. Let's see how this shakes out then. As we continue to watch these cars through. Benji Hites taking the first opportunity to dive into the pits. So he wants to hand the car over to Leonardo Polcini as quickly as possible. Nick Moss in the back of shot as well, making up time. Axel Jeffries, as anticipated, stays out. Now, it's also important to remember Benji Hites as the winning car. When he hands it over to Leonardo Polcini, that will be a longer pit stop. It looked as though Axel Jeffries was trying to make a move on Seb Bow into turn one. We'll have to see whether that's worked out. 63 car in handicap, 95 seconds. So a much longer stop for Leonardo Polcini, even with the safety car bunching the field together. Polcini is going to have a lot of work to do once he's behind the wheel. Look at this deluge of GT3 machinery in the pit lane. Then David Fumanelli a 75-second handicap for them, which is the standard pit stop length. Omar Jackson fishing himself out of the Kessel Racing Ferrari 2. But I think, as I mentioned there, Polcini is going to have a lot of work to do with that 20-second handicap, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out for him.
Yeah, he's really going to have to push to reclaim some of that time, but Adam Christodoulou still out in front, as we expected. Of course, quite a few of the Pro-Ams up at the top end, they've all decided to stay out. That includes Christodoulou, Moritz Kranz, Axel Jeffries, and Sebo as well. Of course, Glenn Van Berlo now in second place, obviously amidst his teammate now, or should I say, not teammate, fellow team of Oregon now in the pit lane, and they've made a change, and they've brought Leonardo Polcini out. Oh, tight on exit. Joe Osborne, he might not appreciate that one, Adam.
Maybe not, but I tell you what, one thing that this has done, this safety car, it's brought David Fuminelli right into this race, because the field was bunched together. Jedelinski and co were much closer to the back of the leaders, and David Fuminelli, who was an absolute bolt of lightning at Estoril last time out, he is going to work his way through the order. What a fabulous sight that was, by the way. All of the cars coming out of the pits at once. There is the newly crowned Bathurst 12-hour winner, Martin Conrad, now at the wheel of the Team Landgraf entry. And here you see Martin Conrad wanted to try and get around Joe Osborne, didn't he? He was trying any which way to do so. And Fuminelli got out ahead of Joe Osborne for good measure. Christodoulou then continues to lead and continues to press on. He's already got 2.4 seconds over Van Berlo in second place. Van Berlo still out there, of course. The other Oregon team car of Polcini has come into the pits already, and Polcini's penalty means so much more now with this situation that we've got, because he's fallen past a whole host of incredible drivers, the likes of Joe Osborne, Carol Bash, Martin Conrad, Yannick Mettler, Pascal Bachmann, Alan Valente were all behind coming into the pits, and that 20-second handicap has put all of them ahead of him. He will be irate, but I'm sure he will be pushing on.
Yeah, we've still got 10 minutes left in terms of driver change. As we know, some stops being made now. This, of course, car number 5 is Stanislav Jedelinski, and he is going to swap for Christian Korzeniowski, who's going to look to try and get into the cockpit now. You can see they're very busy on the car up on the jacks, and very soon they'll be shuffling and huffing and puffing their way out of the pit lane, that's for sure. Still Adam Christodoulou in front. The gap still stagnating at 2.4 seconds, with Glenn Van Berlo in second place, Moritz Kranz in third still as well, and Axel Jeffries in fourth too, with Sebastian Bold in fifth as well. Erwin Zanotti is right in the thick too, with Stanislav Jedelinski. David Fuminelli, as now we see Stanislav Jedelinski fall down the order now, obviously due to the pit stop phase. And we can see there now that David Fuminelli, as you quite rightly say, up in 7th place. God, what magic can he pull off for the second half of this race we have here at Paul Ricard?
Well, he's currently the first of the drivers to not have a pit stop. So he's leading those that have already pitted, and that really sets him up wonderfully to potentially challenge for a race victory here. We'll have to see how the likes of Christodoulou, rather, I should say Rima Jafari, once the driver changes happen, where she comes out in relation to all of this, where Glenn Van Berlo's car comes out in relation to all of this as well. There's lots of unknowns, but suddenly an outright candidate for the victory in the overall classification has to be David Fuminelli, and the car he's taken over from Murat Jedelinski.
Yeah, a very fortunate timed stop indeed after the safety car. Obviously helped, I think, massively their prospects, and now we're seeing certainly them make their way in through the middle sector, well, into the middle sector out of sector 1. And we're currently having our cameras peeled on Axel Jeffries around the next right, chasing after Moritz Kranz there in third place. Glenn Van Berlo still in second, and Adam Christodoulou actually increased the gap by 0.5 of a second, so he is really, really pushing. I think obviously they are considering the in-lap. Bear in mind they've still got 8 minutes left to make the driver change, so he's got to make real good use of those 8 minutes, Adam.
Critical laps for Adam Christodoulou. Every lap's a qualifying lap. Every lap is a rush back home when dinner's in the oven. You want to get back as quickly as possible, and Christodoulou wants to build a gap as quickly as possible here at Paul Ricard. Here you see this battle for second place. Van Berlo, Kranz, and then Axel Jeffries, who is once again trying to work his way through the order. We've seen that car have a spin in this race, and he's still pushing as hard as humanly possible. And incidentally, that was very lucky for him as well that the safety car came out right after the spin. That eradicated the spin somewhat, even if he was no longer as far up the road as he had been previously. Jeffries there in fourth position, still looming large in the rearview mirrors of Moritz Kranz. Now, does either Van Berlo or Kranz pit this time? Doesn't look like they are. And so they continue on. They've got traffic up ahead as well in form of the Korzanowski-driven Olymp Racing Ferrari. But look at Jeffries. He's hounding the back of Moritz Kranz. Kranz knows that Jeffries is very, very eager indeed to get past. He has a little speculative look to the inside, but they continue on. And Jeffries, you'd think that Ferrari could well soon be alongside the Mercedes. The 911 car is in. So that's Steve Jans taking over the Mercedes seat inserts, chucked with abandon during these pit stops. Moritz Kranz all over, well, being pressured massively by Jeffries, and up the inside goes Axel Jeffries, the Kessel Racing Ferrari, up to third overall then with that move. That's also a move for second in Pro-Am, and Axel Jeffries has done his work very well there, but I'm sure he's not done. He's got his sights set on Van Berlo ahead.
He certainly does. Christodoulou 4/10 again on Van Berlo. But here's the replay of the move, and very well executed there from Axel Jeffries. We've come to expect that certainly from his earlier exploits from the back of the grid. But here we now see the Optimum Motorsport car driven by Joe Osborne, and they're ahead as well, David Fuminelli. And we can see these two now heading into the latter stages of the final sector. Joe Osborne trying to urge closer and closer. We know how tenacious he can be behind the steering wheel of a car. So rapid, so pacey, so quick. Ahead though, Fuminelli equally quick as well. Remember Estoril in qualifying when we witnessed Fuminelli giving us certainly a showpiece towards the end with some of those purple sectors towards the end, managing to land his car up at the top order. But there we can see now Joe Osborne to loom large here in behind that of the Ferrari. Last lap, in fact, still staggered well. To be fair, no mere difference between the pair as they head in towards the next chicane. And we now witness them go through the rights and lefts. There in behind is Carol Bash in the Audi. In fact, he's got close too.
Yes, I hadn't noticed quite how close Carol Bash was. Game firmly on. We've got so many incredibly quick drivers line astern at the moment. Steve Jans has got out ahead of these three as well from the pit stop. So of those who've pitted, Steve Jans is currently the leader. That's worth noting too. But Fuminelli, let's not downplay just how quality of a driver David Fuminelli is. He's taken podiums in GP2. He came second in the Euro Formula Open Championship back in 2011 and had so many wins on the way to that as well. Since then, he's been racing in Porsche Cup and all sorts of different things. He's a really, really good driver, and we saw his potential in qualifying at Estoril, the first qualifying session of the weekend. Absolutely dominated to take pole position. Joe Osborne, let's not downplay him either. Joe, 2009 European GT4 champion. He's been a GT regular since 2008 and has won in British GT, the Chinese GT Championship, the Dubai 24 Hours, and McLaren have a lot of faith in his abilities. Axel Jeffries then having a look to the inside of Glenn Van Berlo, and not quite able to find a way through on that occasion. Meanwhile, is this still... no, it's Adam Osaka now in the 786 car. Pascal Bachmann runs it wide, and he spins the street art Aston Martin. Thankfully, kept it out of the barrier, but Bachmann was just running out wide, tried to do more with the wheel to get the car turned in, and unfortunately just asked a bit too much. The rear axle had no more grip to give, and Adam Osaka is through.
Yeah, he is, and he's not the only one either, I don't think. The other Olymp coming through of Christian Korzanowski as well, and that's going to push Pascal Bachmann further down the order, so he's going to have a little bit of work to do. Of course, the sole man in that car this afternoon. And there you can see he's got a whole host of drivers in behind as well, those who are challenging nearer up the order. Oh, and into the pit lane now. In comes Van Berlo, I believe.
Yep, Glenn Van Berlo into the pits. So he has decided to hand the car over. Now, this time by, as Christodoulou comes into turn 1, this should be his final lap. We've got 2 minutes and 48 seconds of the window left to go. They will not manage to get 2 complete laps in during that time. So this is the second last time that they could pit, theoretically, and Glenn Van Berlo has handed over to Kevin Giardoni, and you can see that ongoing now. Next time by, Christodoulou, Jeffries, Kranz will have to all come in too.
Yep, they will. Christodoulou will be coming in now, race leader, of course, at the moment. And in through the next right, we see Axel Jeffries with Moritz Kranz in hot pursuit. Of course, Axel was the one who did usurp Kranz and go a space above him. Of course, now Jeffries chasing down on Adam. Christodoulou want to reduce that deficit as much as possible as they now make their way down the Mistral Straight. There is Christodoulou, current race leader, out on track, though he will be coming into the pits very, very soon. And you can see that right at the curbs, they're taking it very aggressively on the outset. As there we see Adam Osaka moving in towards turn 10 there in our picture. There's Christodoulou again. Up through now, you'll lift off into that turn 10 point of the track and just gracefully car through the next right-hander indeed. I'm sure there's little grace behind the wheel. There is Rima Jafari, all ready and prepared, getting set for the driver change.
Worth noting as well that Christodoulou and Jafari will have a fairly hefty penalty on their on their pit stop, as well as there was a bit of a collision there between Moss and the 911 car Steve Jans. So Jans had already been dispatched by Fuminelli, and then Joe Osborne tried to do the same thing. Sorry, I did say Moss. It is, of course, Joe Osborne at the wheel now. And into the pits comes Adam Christodoulou then. Our race leader is in, and we'll hand over to Rima Jafari. The Pro-Am leader is in. They've been setting their sights on overall victories. They've got a hefty handicap though, 95 seconds, 20 seconds of additional time, courtesy of their successes at Estoril. Christodoulou hands the car over to Rima Jafari. She's going to have to work hard to try and net a solid finish in this race.
Yeah, and in comes as well number 73, and Roman Zemian is going to be taken over from Axel Jeffries. Now car up on the jacks, they'll be making changes too, so there's going to be another mix-up in this order. Janine Schaffner also taking over from Moritz Kranz as well. Erwin Zanotti coming in, no doubt, for Steve Earle, who's going to be now taking charge of that car, as we're now watching a little bit of a fight happening further down the order. Here's number 63, of course, Leonardo Polcini against Yannick Mettler, as they now power out onto the second half of the Mistral Straight, and we've got a bit of a blink here as well from Martin Conrad as he comes up towards turn 10, as in comes Steve Earle now into the car in that lovely multicoloured helmet as well, and he'll be taking his place in the Ferrari. There's Martin Conrad, again blinking that left hand light, and the driver change has officially closed. No more driver changes, folks. This is it now, right to the end of this race. Who's coming out on top? We'll just have to wait and see.
The drivers are locked in then, and the 63 car of Polcini, as you alluded to, all over the back of Yannick Mettler, and just exiting the pits now, Roman Zemian. Now, Zemian will be the first of the cars that has made a pit stop for now. There's Giardoni, who comes out second. Third place will be Schaffner. No, make that David Fuminelli, who dives up the inside for third place. Schaffner, fourth place, and Joe Osborne, fifth. And then Rima Jafari, courtesy of that pit stop penalty, has fallen down to outside of the top 5, unfortunately, so Rima is going to have a lot of work to do here. Roman Zemian is our leader for now. Joe Osborne running a bit wide there at Virage Hotel, but continues to press on. And just coming on to the Mistral Straight here's, and here's a little bit of a moment between himself and Janine Schaffner there. Now, he was behind Janine, ran it wide there, and he did gain the position there. And that was a scary moment, wasn't it? But Joe Osborne may have gained that position off track, we'll have to see. But Osborne there just being followed by Carol Bash still. Carol Bash in the 777 Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2. Car 5 has been summoned to the team managers. That's the number 5 Nolan Racing Ferrari. Koronowski at the wheel at the moment. We'll have to see quite what the issue is there. But the car of Rima Jafari still showing Zalim Christodoulou on the timing screen, but it is in fact, and on the TV graphics, but it is Rima Jafari now at the wheel, of course, and she is down in 6th in Pro-Am and 8th overall, so it's going to be quite the hard work now for Rima Jafari, and we'll see what she can do here.
Yeah, definitely, and looking to come back and perform here in the second half of this race. Oh, a little bit of a tie-up here, a little replay. Oh, a spin, and that's Leonardo Polcini. Oh, big shame, just coming together. Oh, that's not ideal at all, and that's going to send him further back down the order. Not ideal at all, Adam.
Well, we said, didn't we, that he was going to have to do a lot of hard work because of his 20-second penalty. Came in pretty much immediately after the safety car, and that meant that all manner of drivers got past him. And unfortunately, that spin has sent him back down the order from 11th to 13th place. This is the battle for the lead, though. Roman Zamian, our current race leader. He is the AM element of that Pro-Am number 73 Kessel car. Surely he can't hold on for long. No, Giardoni, it's made easy for him there. I think the door left open for Zamian. He will be focusing firmly on the Pro-Am contendership. However, the car behind him, the red and white Kessel Racing Ferrari, they may be teammates, but don't think Fuminelli is going to sit behind him. Those cars are firmly rivals in the Pro-Am category. Dive up the inside there from Giardoni, as we saw, made it easy, and David Fuminelli is surely right on the verge of making a pass as well for the Pro-Am lead, and second overall. Fuminelli will have his eyes locked on the rear end of that Oregon Lamborghini, and the move has not been made yet, so nothing done at the chicane, but Zamian will be conscious of Fuminelli behind him. He'll also be conscious that it is the Pro-Am lead. But I think 24 minutes holding off David Fuminelli would be a very bold thing to try and do. Zamian may give it a tilt, though. He holds on through turn 11. Looked like he was going to run wide, but controlled it quite nicely. Let's see if he puts on some defensive driving here on Fuminelli. Fuminelli looks to the inside, but Zamian again holding on. Good stuff here from Zamian. He will lead the Pro-Am category for at least a couple of more corners, potentially for at least one more lap. But this is going to be absolutely infuriating for Zamian. And look at Joe Osborne right there with him. Look at this, 3 wide. Oh, there's not room for 3 cars there. And somehow they've made it work. Joe Osborne squeezed out of the middle. Carol Bash is there too. Look at Fuminelli, though. He's up to 2nd place. Joe Osborne behind him. And then Carol Bash in 4th place. So that's 1st to 3rd in Pro-Am for Zamian in one fell swoop. Joe Osborne tries to go around the outside of Fuminelli. Surely not. Yes, he's done it. Amazing stuff from Joe Osborne to take 2nd overall. And look at this, Carol Bash. Here comes Carol up the inside at Hotel. David Fuminelli tries to go around the outside, cuts the course as a result, and he's going to try and rejoin as best he can. He does so, rejoining ahead of the 777 car of Carol Bash. Fabulous, fabulous racing from all parties. How there wasn't major contact at the final corner, I have no idea, but it's worked out.
I tell you what, they're turning up the heat here, Adam, now for the second half of this race. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff, but how about that effort indeed from Joe Osborne, managing to capitalise in all the chaos. Of course, Zamian was right in the mix, but look at Carol Bash now, a late move now into the chicane halfway through the Mistral Straight, still side by side between the pair now as they make their way out of the second, into the second half of the Mistral Straight. And as you can see there now, Joe Osborne marching out a little bit of an advantage. For how long, though, we'll have to wait and see, because, of course, Fuminelli is in the mix of a little bit of a fight here with Carol Bash. That Audi is roaming all over the rear of that Ferrari. Tell you what, this has been a pleasure to watch for the past lap or so. Incredible stuff. I tell you what, this is the race we were waiting for.
It really was, and I must give credit to Roman Zamian. He was not willing to make it easy for Fuminelli at all. Fuminelli would have been watching Joe Osborne in the mirror, conscious that it could happen, and it did. Joe Osborne managed to get both of them. Carol Bash then in the Audi. Don't forget, that Audi was meant to be a Ferrari at Estoril. They switched to the Audi after issues with the Ferrari, and they have used it very effectively so far. Carol Bash is a wonderful racer in his own right. He jumped up to GTs basically from karts, and Janine Schaffner with a spin there at turn 11. That's really unfortunate for Janine, who was running decently well in Pro-Am up to that point, and will Mal have fallen out of the overall top 10 with that as well. That's really sad to see. She's down to 10th place now, and we get a replay here of the big moment. Breathe in, Joe. 2 Ferraris squeezing him either side. Fuminelli just about manages to find his way through all the way around the outside. Sensational driving from all parties. There was a little ding between the 2 Kessel Ferraris, but I'm sure that Page's exchange won't be too concerning for them.
I got to say, clever move from Joe Osborne. He backed off earlier in between the 2 cars and sort of gave himself a good access then heading out to the final corner. Gave him the long straight then. This is again. They make their way in towards the next right. So close together, but he did hang on to the brakes and it gave him a good exit. Now down the home straight. You can see he was involved in a pincer move and he had no choice but to pull out and just give himself a chance. Now this was heading into Sector 2, of course, out of Sector 1. Joe Osborne really capitalising after getting the exit speed. And then, of course, we had the mix-up there between Carol Bash and, of course, David Fuminelli. Fuminelli having to take the escape off circuit and does retain that place, of course. Here is Joe Osborne, the onboard, heading around turn 1 and hanging it around the outside as well, taking a lot of the curb there on exit. And managed to stay on top.
You don't take the curb without a lot of confidence in your car. You have to fight it every inch of the way, and that's exactly what he did. Look at Carol Bash, tried to get up the inside at turn 12, wasn't quite able to find room for himself. Carol Bash is doing a sensational job here, trying to fight David Fuminelli. And Carol Bash beat the great and the good of the world in karting, and he's doing a great job here in GTs as well. 63 and 54 cars under investigation. The 63 is Leonardo Polcini, the 54 is the Yannick Mettler-driven SPS Mercedes. That's the contact at the chicane that we saw several laps ago. So they're having a look into that to see what they may or may not do. The 911 car, Steve Jans there in 6th place with Rima Jafari all over the back of the pink 911 Get Speed Mercedes. That's 4th in Pro-Am under contest. Rima will still have her eyes set on a Pro-Am podium. Zamian in 3rd place, Steve Jans there in 4th, and Rima Jafari in 5th place. If she can salvage a podium from this, it would be amazing, considering that handicap penalty owing to their success at Estoril.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin Conrad as well, being joined by Alan Valente in behind him. The Team Manfilter car as well. They're just round the next right-hander, Team Landgraf, around this next right. And that blazing yellow green livery, of course, now heading through the next left. Alan Valente and Team GT in behind as well. Of course, the Merc looking to get closer and closer to the other Merc at this point. And you can see there further up that Rima Jafari is trying to close on Steve Jans as well, and she has got a lot closer as well. 7.5 tenths between them. Alan Valente also getting closer as well to Martin Conrad, so it's getting tighter and tighter between this conglomerate now, and it looks like that the Team GT car is looking a little more favourable in that chicane as they now power out onto the second half of the Mistral Straight. You can see that Martin Conrad responds by going further out wide then and heading down through towards turn 10 now, where they can just lift off slightly again and allow maybe for some closer racing. There's Joe Osborne. They're currently chasing Kevin Gillardoni. That gap has come cascading downwards. It's now at 7.5 tenths as things stand, and Osborne there riding a lot of the curb. And as you so rightly said, Adam, a testament of confidence, I suppose, in riding the curbs like that. If you can take it, then great. And you can see them there taking a wider entrance as well into the final bend, maybe giving him some more straight line speed heading down towards turn 1.
Just some information coming in from around the paddock. For one thing, the 73 Ferrari, the Kessel Racing Ferrari, obviously started at the back of the order. We didn't expect it to. That was because of an irregular gurney flap on the rear wing of the car. It's that little kind of flat bit you see on the back of the rear wing, the gurney flap. It was considered to be irregular. Let's just pause this update though for now though, because here comes Joe Osborne. Osborne in the 72 car, all over the back of Kevin Gillardoni as they run through the closing section of this first sector. They will soon be out onto the Mistral Straight, and Joe Osborne will be eyeing a late-breaking move into the chicane, as will Carol Bash, who's all over the back of David Fuminelli, 1st and 3rd place under contendership. And of course, this is the Pro-Am lead as well that we look at here with the Audi and the Ferrari. 4 manufacturers in the top 4 as well. Nice variety here as Joe Osborne dives to the inside. Is he going to get the move done? He's got a nose ahead. He's got a car ahead. Joe Osborne into the lead of the race then. We'll surely see a retaliation from Giardoni. And what's happened behind them? It's still Fuminelli in third, Carol Bash in fourth. And I also just want to note, while we're talking about Audis, the other Audi, the Aust Motorsport car, a fuel problem, the likely cause for the retirement. Information there from GTOpen social media maestro Pablo. So lots of people doing some work down in the paddock, getting us some extra information, which is always very handy to have indeed. Thank you to the entire team here at the GTOpen. Fabulous racing we've had to this point of the race, and Joe Osborne is our new race leader. He will be grinning from ear to ear at this. He'll still be very much focused, but look at the gap he's already building. He's got a couple of car lengths over Giardoni, and Nick Moss will be tense and willing his co-driver on every inch of the way.
He certainly will be, and they're going to be hoping they can pull off what they couldn't necessarily pull off at Estoril, of course. They were hoping they could get to the end. Just wasn't quite to be, was it? Leonardo Polcini decided that it would be him to take the victory ahead of Nick Moss, but further back you can see Carol Bash and David Fuminelli coming closer together as well, and also being dragged into this fight is Kevin Gilardoni as well, to a degree. So now watching them make their way through Sector 1, and they're now within a second. Remember, it's 1.4 between Fuminelli and Gilardoni. It's now 8/10. It's come straight in. Carol Bash also being pulled into the mix too. So we've got a big scrap here for second place, and here's the replay of Joe Osborne's great manoeuvre on Kevin Gilardoni. Picked his spot, well measured, and here is also the battle for third spot between that of David Fuminelli and Carol Bash. The onboard of Joe Osborne heading into the chicane. Smoothly does it. The McLaren flew and led the way on the exit. Wonderful move indeed, and there you can see Gilardoni's view of the matter. I'd imagine he'd prefer, well, I'd imagine he wouldn't show preference to his view. I'd imagine Joe Osborne would be happy with his.
Absolutely. Here's a good scrap further back then. Adam Osaka has just got past Janine Schaffner. This isn't for class position, but Schaffner has been demoted down to 15th place then. Osaka just making a move for 14th. I expect that was at the first corner of the lap. I think we're going to get a replay now to confirm. Here we go. Osaka up the inside. Very nicely done. Osaka is quite the potent driver in his own right. He is the team boss at Get Speed, but he's also one of their taxi drivers at the Nürburgring. Doing their passenger laps. He knows what he's doing. Here's Fuminelli. He's trying to dive up the inside of Giardoni. Fuminelli wants to try and get a Lamborghini between himself and Carol Bash, but it's a sensitive matter, this. If he leaves the door even a smidge open, and Audi's going to pass through. He's trying to get around Giardoni. He goes round the outside here. He's going to try and do exactly what he did a couple of laps ago. Take two. Not quite as successful this time. And here comes Carol Bash. He's squared out the corner, and that Audi is ahead by just about 3/4 of a car. It's not quite enough though. Here comes the Ferrari pulling it back. The 488 GT3 should just about have a nose ahead into the corner. Does Bash go all the way around the outside? No, it is Fuminelli still fourth overall. Third overall in this race. Of course, this is the Pro-Am lead, so it's all important. And here comes Carol Bash. Great run out of the first two corners. He's through into third position, but Fuminelli immediately tries to go back around the outside. Can't find the grip, and that is a position made for Carol Bash. He leads Pro-Am. He's now third overall for good measure, and he will feel that he too can close in on Giardoni, and he's going to try and get the move done.
Yeah, I still think we've got plenty more to come here, because I have to say, huge opportunity certainly for Carol Bash, and he took it with both hands, that's for sure. But as we're now watching, Osborne still in front. Here's the replay. Carol Bash and David Fuminelli, the pair of them coming together. Fuminelli was just looking for that switchback. Looked like he might have had a chance, and then all of a sudden the car just got bent out of shape slightly, heading into that right-hander. Unfortunately, Carol Bash coming out on top. But I have to say, no greater display. That long straight on the home straight, we saw an essence of that Ferrari straight line speed coming right back at Carol Bash out of that final corner. Despite that superb exit heading out the final corner, Carol Bash saw the Ferrari coming back alongside, and that just goes to show the straight line speed capabilities behind that Ferrari car.
Yep, strengths and weaknesses inevitable with the very, very different cars that we have here in GT3 competition. And Karol Bash here in third place overall at the moment. Could be a Pro-Am win for himself. And Marcin Jedelinski, who had a very strong first stint of this race, certainly played his part in the result that may be to come, and it could well be the second step of the overall podium, because already the gap between himself, well, between the 777 car and Giardoni in second is coming in hot. And here comes Giardoni. Rather, we're looking now at the Pro-Am. Now this is interesting, because this is Pro-Am. Yannick Mettler versus Rima Jafari. This is for, what, 5th in Pro-Am. Nose ahead for Mettler. Is he going to be able to take the position from Rima? Oh no, Rima brave on the brakes. Too brave? No. Perfectly done from Rima Jafari. We saw her defensive driving capabilities at Estoril last time, and she's having a great fight with Yannick Mettler, but Mettler, I think, has just about managed to make it through this time. Yes, so Jafari down to 8th position, and that makes 5th now, rather no, 6th overall in Pro-Am. And we should say as well that the Pro-Am 3rd place is getting very hotly contested indeed. As you can see on screen there, Roman Zamian is coming under fire from Steve Jans. Steve Jans is closing in for 3rd in Pro-Am. And now Yannick Mettler and Rima Jafari and Alan Valente behind will no doubt all be closing for good measure. Bouncing over the curbs go some of the drivers here at this chicane that breaks up the Mistral Straight, the famous feature here at the circuit Paul Ricard. Of course, there wasn't a chicane in the early years here at Paul Ricard, but that chicane in itself is a bit of an advantage. It creates a mighty braking opportunity for those drivers. Here comes Rima Jafari to following Yannick Mettler. Hasn't quite been able to hold on to the back of Mettler, who's already built a few car lengths. Giardoni versus Karol Bash, still ongoing. Bash with a good run once again out of the final corner. Let's see if he can draft up behind the Lamborghini. 5.2-litre V10 engines for both cars, identical in essence when it comes to the powertrain. And that Audi has a nose ahead. Will he be all the way ahead by the time we get to the corner? Yes, just about through goes Karol Bash, so he's into second overall. He's continuing to lead Pro-Am, and Karol Bash will be feeling it here. He's got 8.5 minutes of the race left to go and 4.3 seconds between himself and the leader, Joe Osborne. I think that's a bridge too far. However, he will still be delighted with how this race has gone. Karol Bash is proving to be a revelation. What a driver.
He has done absolutely superbly, coming back from where he did against some really stiff competition as well, because Giardoni is a superb driver, not to mention David Fuminelli as well. Here we have a little bit of a fight between Roman Zamian and, of course, car 911 of Steve Jans right in the mix. Oh, it's a spin. Oh,
Zamian with a spin there. That's really unfortunate to see. He was doing a great job there in what was 3rd in Pro-Am, and he spun himself off the last podium. Steve Jans has taken a position as a result of that, and Yannick Mettler, Rima Jafari have also gone through. So Rima's back into the top 5 in Pro-Am now as a result of that moment for Roman Zamian. But Zamian has fallen out of the overall top 10 as a result of that spin as well, down to what is now 7th place in the Pro-Am classification. David Fuminelli is going to have a second swing at Kevin Giardoni. A few laps ago, he tried to make the move stick, couldn't do it, and Karol Bash took the opportunistic move and got past Fuminelli. Now, Giardoni versus Fuminelli, take 2. Let's see if this one will be a sellout sequel of a battle between the two. Giardoni there in the 3rd position, second in the Pro class, of course, but it's the overall points that count for the Pro teams, and Giardoni won't want to lose any positions to Fuminelli. Fuminelli stalking in that 133 Kessel Racing Ferrari. Murat Hadaroglu will be willing him on. He wants to stand on the overall podium today. Fuminelli does too. Up the inside goes Fuminelli, not close enough on this occasion though. Giardoni holds on to 3rd place. He doesn't have to hold on for long. It's only 6.5 minutes of racing left to go. go, but every time there's a sharp braking zone, Fuminelli is going to try it.
He certainly will, and he's tried again and again and again. Fuminelli, we know his pace, we know he's rapid. Certainly that Ferrari is potent down the long stretches, but certainly the Lamborghini, no slouch either at all. I have to say the pair of them certainly are going to be a stiff contest for one another. Ghilardoni doing his absolute utmost to retain this third place right now. 3/10 is the gap between him and Fuminelli. Very, very thin. The gap thinner than a fly's eyelash, that's for sure, in the closing segments of this race as they now head down towards the chicane in the Mistral Straight. You can see him just pulling up to the inside to defend the outside line move here from Fuminelli. Is he going to make the side-by-side move? No, Fuminelli not quite prepared to make the jump just yet. He has still got time, and ideally get it done as late as possible, I suppose, to at least give him a chance of holding on to the position as well, as we're now seeing once again Ghilardoni moving over to the far right-hand side of the track, but it's not going to stop Fuminelli, who's now going to take the outside line now around turn 10. Can he hold on? No, Ghilardoni. Brilliant car placement there is what's keeping him in that third place. A huge effort, a huge drive, a huge demanding effort, that's for sure, to keep that man Fuminelli right in behind him.
Amazing stuff, isn't it, from that 133 car of Fuminelli, who's trying every which way to get around the Lamborghini, but Ghilardoni stellar from a defensive perspective here, as you rightly say, George. And Ghilardoni, once again, being very careful with how he places the car through 14 and 15. Out of the final corner again. Less than 5 minutes of racing to go. And we'll see whether a move can be made here for Fuminelli. He will desperately want to get onto the overall podium, but Ghilardoni isn't making it easy. Fuminelli's not close enough for a move into turn 1 on this occasion. But let's see about turns 2, or rather turns 3 and 4. Good braking zones there, but again, not quite close enough. Fuminelli will be trying his utmost here. Steve Jans, meanwhile, trying to hold on to third in Pro-Am with Yannick Mettler all over the back of him. Rima Jafari, meanwhile, she is having a glorious scrap with Alan Valente at the moment. Valente, they're trying to get into 5th in Pro-Am. I'm sure Valente will be of the opinion that a Pro-Am win could, a Pro-Am podium could still be on the cards here. If Steve Jans and Yannick Mettler continue to fight and he can get himself around Rima Jafari, then maybe a podium for Team GT and Alan Valente in Pro-Am wouldn't be that far-fetched. We'll have to wait and see, though. For now, through the turn 7 and onto the long back straight, the Mistral Straight, goes Steve Jans and Yannick Mettler. Let's see if Mettler has a look to the inside. Not quite close enough on that occasion. Both drivers in those battles pushing on. And 33 of Valente trying so hard to get around Rima Jafari here. Jafari, as we alluded to, had some brilliant defensive driving in her arsenal at Estoril. And I'm sure we're going to see more of the same here as she continues to hold off Alan Valente for 5th in the Pro-Am standings and 7th overall. Ghilardoni still ahead of Fuminelli for now, but here comes Fuminelli. Little speculative look to the outside around turn 14. Try and make the run out of the final turn as quick as possible. Virage du Pont, the last corner, and if you do take an outside, a wide line into the corner like he did there, it can really set you up for a run down the main straight into turn 1. That's exactly what Fuminelli has done. He's around the outside at turn 1, but once again, he's not able to do anything from that position. Ghilardoni, once again, keeping himself in that third place. Of course, the championship very much in the cards for Van Berlo and Ghilardoni. They would love to continue to score solid points and be up there at the sharp end. Another podium to match the one they had at Estoril would go some way to doing that. In fact, it was double podium, I should say, at Estoril. Here comes Fuminelli. Once again in the wheel tracks of the Lamborghini, 5.2 litre V8 versus 5.2 litre V10 versus 3.9 litre V8. Up the inside comes Fuminelli. Oh, and he's done it, but he's done it while going off the circuit. That was certainly quite a hectic moment there. I don't think Fuminelli was going to make the corner. Giardoni had to turn out of that one to make sure there wasn't a collision between the two of them. And well, goodness me, we know that that Ferrari is potent in a straight line, as George has alluded to several times. But yeah, that was quite the moment there between Fuminelli and Giardoni. Fuminelli, let's get a replay of this. Giardoni was going defensive. Fuminelli tried to get the car stopped and ended up really missing the apex of that turn. It was very late on the brakes, and it's just come across on the timing screen. Car 133 must give back the position. So it's been decided that that wasn't done fairly. David Fuminelli has to hand Kevin Giardoni third place back, and he has to do so with just 45 seconds left on the clock. We are now on to the final lap of the race. And here you see the moment that Fuminelli did hand the position back to Giardoni. So he's obeyed, but they're side by side, and it's a nose ahead for Fuminelli. And this time, he may have done it at turn one. No, oh yes, Giardoni. I thought maybe just about managed to get back into third, but no, he's lost the position. Amazing driving then from Fuminelli. Once again, must have had a good run out to the final corner, set himself up nicely. And on this occasion, he has managed to get past Giardoni fair and square, but Giardoni goes for it. Oh, collision between the two. Oh dear. It's been a fraught contest between Giardoni and Fuminelli, and well, Giardoni just hit the knockout blow there, but unfortunately, it knocked Fuminelli into a spin. Giardoni then continues to hold third place. Ah dear, that was a little bit of a difficult one to call. I don't envy the stewards, but what we can tell you for now is that Giardoni is back up to third place, a position he's held for a majority of the race, and he will cross the line in third overall. Fuminelli in fourth place. But that did get very intense, didn't it, that battle in the closing stages. Joe Osborne is just a few corners away from taking the first overall win of the year for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren around the Corbeil du Garlaban, and now the for the final time. And it is going to be Joe Osborne who takes the win himself, and Nick Moss, overall winners in the International GTOpen. A fabulous result for Joe Osborne, takes the win. Carol Bash taking second place. Kevin Giardoni taking third overall, and it's a Pro-Am win, of course, for Carol Bash as well. Giardoni does cross the line now in third position. There's Fuminelli across the line for fourth and second in Pro-Am. And Yannick Mettler is third place now in Pro-Am as well. He will round out the overall top five. Steve Jans in third in Pro-Am. Fourth in Pro-Am goes to Steve Jans, and Rima Jafari taking seventh overall, rounding out the Pro-Am top five. Alan Valente couldn't find a way past Rima Jafari, so takes sixth place in Pro-Am. Leonardo Pulcini in ninth place. That car went through some trials and tribulations in the race, as we saw. And then in 10th position, rounding out the overall top 10, our AM class winner, Martin Conrad. He's done 2 races in the last 7 days and won both of them. Last weekend, it was the Bathurst 12 Hours. Today, it's race 1 at the International GTOpen round here at Paul Ricard. And he will be delighted with that AM win, along with Alexander Krakowina. The top 10 overall, always a good position for an AM team as well. Congratulations to them. Incidentally, the top 3 in AM were Martin Conrad, Charles Hollings, and Jamie Stanley. Hollings and Stanley, the 2 British drivers in the Ferraris, taking second and third in AM. Of course, Charles Hollings sharing with Omar Jackson with another AM podium. He'll be delighted with that. And Jamie Stanley sharing with Laurent Denius. Joe Osborne will be elated with that result. I'm sure he has got a beaming smile in the cockpit of that McLaren. And there you see the bulletin. 5-second penalty added to the race time of Kevin Giardoni. And well, another twist in the tail at the last possible moment. There was also a moment between Osaka And Roman Zamian there. Osaka tried to find the inside line, wasn't quite able to do it. So Zamian held on to 13th overall there. They were not in the same class, of course. That wasn't for a class position. But there we see our winner, Joe Osborne and Nick Moss, the winning team in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski taking second place. Third place to Fuminelli and Jedelinski in the Kessel Racing Ferrari. Van Berlo and Giardoni in fourth place overall with that penalty applied post-race. And then Muller and Mettler taking third in Pro-Am. The overall top 5 for them as well. 5 manufacturers in the top 5, lest we forget. Bold and Jans taking 6th. 7th place to Jafari and Christodoulou. Leonardo Pulcini 8th. Alan Valente 9th. Martin Conrad in 10th. 11th place, Omar Jackson and Charles Hollings. 12th place to Demius and Stanley. Zamian and Jeffries ultimately taking 13th after that spin for Roman Zamian. And of course, there was a spin for Axel Jeffries earlier in the race too. So dramatic times for the 73 car. 39 points on the board for Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. They are now leading the championship. Leonardo Pulcini and Benji Hites second in the championship there, as you can see. And 26 points for Van Berlo and Giardoni moves them up to third. Bash and Jedlinski there in fourth place. I believe that was Christodoulou and Jafari rounding out the top 5 in the overall points here in the International GT Open. And wow, 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 what a race we had at Paul Ricard here today. Joe Osborne had to do fighting. There was not a single driver on this grid that didn't have to fight hard for their result today. It was a fabulous, fabulous race. And you see there, Fuminelli getting out of his rather Niki Lauda, with his Niki Lauda-esque helmet on the car, getting out of the rather appropriately red and white Ferrari. Here is Joe Osborne.
Very nice. Thank you.
He is elated with that one. Loving the helmet design for Joe Osborne as well. He is a happy, happy man. Gets plaudits there from Jesus Pereira, the big boss himself here at the GT Sports organisation. And Joe Osborne will be taking in the spoils and the plaudits from all concerned. And I can't wait to see how Nick Moss reacts to this as well. I'm sure he's going to be delighted. Karol Bash taking second, Fuminelli eventually taking the third position. Joe Osborne getting the helmet off.
Some nice driving there.
And there you go, the Optimum Motorsport crew giving Joe Osborne their feedback. Amazing driving. I'd say I agree with that, you know. And there's Nick Moss. I was wondering where he was. He's got him in a headlock. No, 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 you're meant to congratulate him. Congratulate him, don't fight him. Great stuff between Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. I love the camaraderie between these two. That looked like a wrestling match for a couple of seconds. Goodness me. Nick Moss so happy with that result. Great to see. Jedelinski and Fuminelli taking third overall and second in Pro-Am. The second place in Pro-Am, Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. The leaders in Pro-Am, the second overall. And the winners, Joe Osborne, Nick Moss. Congratulations to that pairing. Their first overall win as a pro entry here in International GT Open. We are just awaiting the interview. We'll hopefully get a hold of the Optimum Motorsport team in just a few moments, but I think they're still deep in the midst of those rather physical celebrations at the moment.
But he's my teammate, he's gonna like me back.
And there you see some conversations. And I'm sure we'll start hearing from some of these drivers shortly. And I believe we are going to an interview now.
Gentlemen,
yes.
Always a pleasure to have you here. What a race, Nick.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, right? Yeah. So it was really good. It was like, you know, I did a solid stint. I did exactly what we kind of planned out to do. It's just sort of like stay in a sort of sixth place That was my plan. And then theoretically we should have been in a really good position. I think the safety car sort of didn't do us any favours because we had a big gap to the next group. But I mean, Osborne is the Osborne factor, and then that just changes everything. So we went from talking about fourth to oh maybe not.
It was pretty lively, your stint.
Yeah, except lively when we go to the steward's room later, so I use it as evidence. Nick underplayed his part. Got to remember, he is a bronze driver, but we're in the pro class, so quite rightly, because he's not driving like a bronze, so he's got to take it to these silvers and golds alike, so he did a mega job and gave me the chance to do it. The car was brilliant. We had a few little issues in the car, so it wasn't like all champagne and frog's legs. It was pretty stressful at times, but the car was in the right place at the right time for me to get past people in a lively spirit.
Well done. Now, champagne.
Champagne indeed. Don't know if frog's legs go with champagne, but let's get to the highlights. Here we are at the start of the race. Adam Christodoulou with a brilliant start, and Nick Moss, our eventual race-winning car, was trying to get up into the top three in the early going. The Oregon Lamborghinis had nothing of it, though. Nick Moss had to stay in fifth, what would ultimately be sixth place. Some overtakes further back. Great to see Pascal Bachmann in that 007 Aston Martin. The Alst Motorsport Audi, our newcomers, unfortunately, what's suspected to be a fuel issue causing them problems, also caused the rest of the field a safety car. This was Van Berlo trying to stick it around the outside of Moritz Krantz, and he did so. There's the 18 car coming into the pit lane. The pit stop change brought a new dynamic to the race, and this was a fabulous move from Fuminelli, who managed to take Joe Osborne, but Osborne very quickly retaliated. Look at this, up the around the outside, gave him the inside for turn two, and that is the definitive moment of the race for Osborne to get past Fuminelli in that fashion. Also got around the 73 car of Roman Zamian, who had to be on the defensive. Nick Moss, again, getting past for the lead. That was on Giardoni. Giardoni also eventually fell back behind Fuminelli. He wasn't going to take that for an answer, though. Dived up the inside, but a collision between the two. Yes, Giardoni crossed the line in third, but he was ultimately demoted to fourth because of a penalty. Fuminelli reinstated in third place. No taking away the victory, though, from Optimum Motorsport. Joe Osborne, Nick Moss, your race winners here today in the McLaren for Optimum Motorsport. Very nice. I wholeheartedly agree. Joe Osborne, great job. There you see some of the drivers congregated for the podium. This is the third place Pro-Am duo of Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller. Dexter's got a wonderful Mercedes 600 out by the SPS garage this weekend. He told me to have a look at it. He said, "You like my tank?" It is quite a big car, and he is such a massive enthusiast of the automotive and motorsport worlds, and lovely to have him so successful here this season. We will soon see the drivers out for the podium. And here is the number 133 duo, Fuminelli and Shahadaroglu, on the third step of the overall podium. They're going to be elated with that result. Second place, Carol Bash will be joined by Marcin Jedlinski. Carol put in one amazing shift in that Audi to take second overall and the Pro-Am win. Joe Osborne and Nick Moss, though, with the biggest smiles in the room. Yes, they're outside, but we'll gloss over that. Delightful result for Joe and Nick. They have taken their first overall win as a pro-class entry in the International GTOpen. As Joe Osborne said, Nick Moss is a bronze. Is he driving like a bronze? I'd agree that he's definitely exceeding that ranking at the moment. Here is the national anthem. rather appropriate to hear that so close to the Jubilee. Huge congratulations to Osborne and Moss once again. Jesus Pereira presenting the trophies to third place Chadaroglu and Fuminelli. Our own Alfredo Filippone, our interviewer, getting to deliver a trophy as well. That's great to see. And Jesus pulling double duty, presenting to our race winners as well. Oh, I get the feeling that Nick Moss is quite lethal with a champagne bottle. I think this could be quite fun. Let's keep an eye on that. Also, that Optimum Motorsport employee needs to run as quickly as possible because he's going to get doused. What a great moment this is, though, for Optimum and that driver pairing. And look at it, Nick Moss wants to get it done. And there we go, he's on the attack. Great stuff from Nick and everyone here on the podium. Chadaroglu and Fuminelli not working together, and once again it's getting physical between Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. Their idea of congratulating each other looks an awful lot like a fight at times. It's still ongoing, much to the amusement of the drivers in the other podiums. And that's some of the AM podium sitters there. They got a round of applause for that. That looked like quite a good wrestling match. That WrestleMania worthy, potentially.
Won this one under 10 seconds, so it is
you heard there that Rima, Jafari and Christodoulou talking about the handicaps for the next race. Good spot there from Christodoulou. The likes of Karol Bash and David Fuminelli. Those cars are going to have to serve increased handicaps for the next race, so they'll be well in amongst it for tomorrow's race. There is the Pro-Am podium duo of Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller. 5th overall and 3rd in the Pro-Am classification. A good day's work from them. Once again onto the podium. One step better and slightly damper than when they were on the podium the first time. Fuminelli and Chadaroglu. And then Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski will be back onto the podium once again, this time on the top step as our Pro-Am winners. Great result for the team driving the Audi R8 for Olymp Racing. And once again, Jesus Pereira presenting the podium there too, presenting the trophies there to Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler. And Alfredo helping out there too. Great to have both of them on the podium this time. And Marcin Jedlinski, I'm sure, is going to be absolutely elated with this result in particular. He's got such a strong co-driver in the form of Karol Bash. And the Polish competitors will be all smiles all night long. And I dare suggest they will celebrate in style before we get back underway for tomorrow's qualifying in the morning. The AM podium will be up next. Some more champagne to be sprayed, though, before that, I'm sure. And there you see the Olymp Racing crew happy with their day's work. And Charles Hollings sat there with Omar Jackson. They're in discussion, and Laurent Demius and Jamie Stanley too. Those two have been paired together for quite a long time in other categories, and it's great to see them with us and doing so well in International GTOpen as well. That's, of course, the sole AF Corsa entry in International GTOpen this year. An overwhelming majority of the Ferraris come from the Kessel Racing stable. But third in the AM class was Jamie Stanley and Laurent Demius, and we see them up onto the podium now, the 55 car drivers. And second place, Charles Hollings. In the 77 car, alongside Omar Jackson. Omar, who started the race, solid performance from both parties. And Omar getting used to this whole podium lark, isn't he? It's been a good run so far in the AM class for Omar and Charlie Hollings. Martin Conrad was on the top step of the podium in Australia last week. Jet lag seemingly not an issue for him. He is on the top step of the AM podium along with Alexander Krakowina, the all-Austrian team, taking the top step of the podium. The trophies being presented once again then for this final podium, the AM class podium. And as the drivers take the plaudits and celebrate their results, all that's left for us to do here at Paul Ricard is wish you well. Make sure you join us tomorrow. If today's race is anything to go by, the International GTOpen and Paul Ricard is one amazing combination. We've got more racing to come tomorrow. Join us then.